Imagine a woman sitting in the flickering light of a campfire 30,000 years ago, obsessing over a seam. The cave is cold, but she's barely noticed. She is scraping a piece of animal skin thinner and thinner with a stone tool because tomorrow there's a gathering, and she wants this hide to follow the curve of her body perfectly. She isn't just trying to stay warm, she's trying to look beautiful for someone. She's using a bone needle to tailor a shape that says, I am here, I am skilled, and I matter. Number 10. The snail blood robe. Long before fashion became fast, cheap, and aggressively synthetic, one of the most expensive colours on earth was made by crushing sea snails, thousands of them. In the ancient Mediterranean, especially among the Phoenicians and later the Romans, the famous dye known as Tyrian purple came from the glands of murex sea snails. The process was slow, filthy, expensive, and smelled so bad that dye workshops had to be kept away from major settlements. And still, people wanted it. Of course they did. Because this was not just colour. This was status liquefied. A purple robe told the world that enough labour, enough death, and enough money had been poured into your outfit that your body now outranked most of the room. In some periods, laws even restricted who could wear it. Number 9. The hay sneakers. Let's start with the Iceman, because this man died in the Alps around 3300 BC, wearing what was basically the most over-engineered winter fit on Earth. Bearskin hat, grass rain cape, coat stitched from multiple animal hides, leggings, belt, shoes made from deerskin and bearskin packed with grass for insulation, hay, in the shoes. And the funny part is, it worked. This was not random caveman wrapping. This was design. His shoes were built to grip, insulate, and survive mountain terrain. His whole outfit was layered like a prehistoric survival tutorial made by someone with no free time and very high standards. Ancient fashion starts here with one brutal truth. Before clothing could be beautiful, it had to stop you from dying. Number 8. The world's oldest dress. At Tarkhan in Egypt, archaeologists found the oldest woven dress ever discovered, dated to somewhere between roughly 3482 and 3102 BC. Not cloth, a dress, a real one, linen, tailored, shaped, with sleeves and pleated details, an actual silhouette. That matters because it kills the lazy fantasy that ancient clothes were just fabric wrapped around body somehow. Good enough, moving on. This was cut to follow the body. Somebody cared how this thing hung from the shoulders. Somebody cared where the folds sat. Somebody cared what shape it made from a distance. And linen is hard work. Flax has to be grown, pulled, retted, beaten, spun, woven, cut, and sewn. That is an absurd amount of labour just to end up with one garment that says, no, this is not just cloth. This is presentation. Ancient humans were not just covering the body. They were sculpting it. Number 7. The dyed flax flecks. At Judzuana Cave in Georgia, archaeologists found flax fibres around 30,000 years old. Some of them were dyed. Blue, black, pink. That should make you feel something. It means ancient humans were looking at perfectly usable material and thinking, yes, but what if it looked better? Imagine the world outside, cold, dangerous, half the technology still missing, and someone in a cave is basically saying, I hear all that, but I still think the pink works better. That is the species. Dyeing fibres is hard work. You gather, strip, process, and colour. Nobody does that by accident. You do it because colour makes the body easier to notice, easier to read, more alive. Number 6. The first smoky eye, Egypt again, because no civilization has ever looked at basic grooming and calmly stopped there. Long before modern makeup brands started pretending they invented dramatic eyes, ancient Egyptians were grinding green malachite and black galena into powders and painting them around the eyes. Archaeologists have found cosmetic palettes, pigment grinders, and applicators that make it painfully obvious this was not some accidental dust situation. This was a routine, and it was a good one. The dark lines made the eyes sharper, more intense, and far more visible in bright sun and firelight. Some scholars also argue the mineral mixes may have helped reduce glare or irritation, which is exactly the kind of thing ancient fashion loved, useful, beautiful and slightly alarming if you think too hard about the ingredients. Imagine waking up beside the Nile, already sweating, already dusty, already dealing with an empire's worth of inconvenience, and still sitting down to make sure your face looked devastating. That is commitment. The first smoky eye was not for the club. It was for history. Number 5. The Whig Kingdom. Then Egypt arrives and immediately makes everything more glamorous and more exhausting. Ancient Egyptians often shaved their heads for heat, then wore wigs made from human hair or wool. A wig was not just fake hair, it was social architecture. It gave rank. It could be braided, perfumed, and pinned until the head stopped being a head and started being a statement. And because wigs needed care, they proved you had status. Somebody had to make this. Somebody had to help you get ready. Fashion was social, before it was personal. Number 4. The Roman laundry nightmare. Now we get to one of the funniest and most disgusting truths in style history. Romans loved bright, clean white garments. White says money. White also says someone else is handling the consequences. How did Roman fullers clean cloth? Urine. Because stale urine contains ammonia, which helps break down grease. So the polished Roman look depended on somebody standing in vats of fermented piss, so upper-class people could look respectable. The robe looked clean. The process did not. The smoother the final look, the uglier the maintenance usually is. Number 3. The drilled smile. By the time you reach ancient Mesoamerica, fashion moves into the mouth. Ancient Maya elites sometimes filed their teeth and drilled them for inlays made of jade or turquoise. There was no anesthetic, there was just commitment and a very bad afternoon. This matters because it shows how far beauty had moved beyond clothing. The face itself became a display surface. A smile was proof that somebody had enough status and pain tolerance to alter their own mouth for appearance. The natural face was not always the ideal face. Number 2. The 10,000-hour outfit. At Sunghir in Russia, around 34,000 years ago, archaeologists found 2 children buried with clothing decorated with more than 10,000 mammoth ivory beads. Not beside them, on them. Sewn in. One estimate suggests each bead took an hour to make. That is thousands and thousands of hours of labour for the clothing of 2 children. It is deeply human. Now fashion is not just status, it is attention made visible. A community saying, this body matters enough for us to spend our lives on it. That is not decoration, that is devotion. Number 1. The Cave Makeup Kit. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, around 100,000 years ago, archaeologists found abalone shells holding a deliberately mixed pigment compound, red ochre, crushed bone, and animal fat. Someone sat in cave light 100,000 years ago, grinding red pigment and trying to get the shade exactly right. Red skin catches firelight. Red looks alive. Red looks dangerous. In a world with no mirrors, the face was already a message. That is the answer to it all. Ancient fashion was weird and brutal, because it was never just about looking nice. It was evidence. A white Roman robe meant nightmare chemistry. A beaded outfit meant years of human time. A cave makeup mixture meant somebody cared enough to grind beauty out of stone and bone in the dark. The body had to introduce you before you spoke. The tools changed. The pressure did not. Be honest, are you taking the hay sneakers, the eagle claws, or the cave makeup bowl and pretending this is a normal morning routine?